Ready to journey back in time? We're about to explore ancient Egypt, one of the most powerful and fascinating civilizations the world has ever known. This isn't just a quick tour, it's a full cinematic deep dive into 5,000 years of incredible history. Imagine a world of pharaohs, towering pyramids, and untold riches, all born from the life-giving waters of the Nile River. We'll start at the very beginning, watching as small settlements along the Nile grow into a mighty kingdom. You'll meet Narmer, the legendary king who united Upper and Lower Egypt, setting the stage for centuries of greatness. From there, we'll enter the Old Kingdom, the age of the pyramid builders. We'll unravel the mysteries of how the Great Pyramid of Giza was constructed, a feat of engineering that still baffles experts today. But Egypt was more than just pyramids. We'll journey into the Middle Kingdom, a time of beautiful art, moving poetry, and cultural rebirth. We'll see the magnificent Temple of Karnak rise from the sands and witness the golden age of the New Kingdom, where powerful pharaohs ruled a vast empire. We'll uncover the stories of legendary rulers like Hatshepsut, the queen who defied tradition to rule as king, and Akhenaten, the pharaoh who tried to change 1,000 years of religion overnight. Of course, no journey to ancient Egypt would be complete without meeting the boy king Tutankhamun. We'll explore his famous tomb and the dazzling treasures that were hidden for millennia. Finally, we'll witness the slow decline as foreign invasions chipped away at this once great empire. But even in its fall, the legacy of Egypt endures, influencing art, science, and culture to this very day. From the first pharaoh to the final days, we're covering it all. This is the complete story of ancient Egypt, from its birth on the Nile to its eternal legacy. Get comfortable, because our epic journey through time starts now. If you're as fascinated by history as I am, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our future explorations. Let's begin. In the heart of North Africa, along a river that gave birth to one of the greatest civilizations in human history, rises a story of kings, gods, wars, science, and eternal monuments. This is the story of ancient Egypt, a civilization that refused to die. For over 3,000 years, while much of the world was still in its infancy, the Egyptians were building an empire that would echo through eternity. It all began with the Nile, the lifeblood of the desert. Each year, its predictable floods deposited rich, black silt, creating a fertile ribbon of land in an otherwise barren landscape. This gift from the gods allowed agriculture to flourish, communities to grow, and a powerful state to emerge. From the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under the first pharaoh, Narmer, a dynasty of god-kings was born. These rulers were seen as intermediaries between the heavens and the earth, responsible for maintaining cosmic order, or Mat. To honor their gods and immortalize their own reigns, they commissioned monuments on a scale the world had never seen. The Great Pyramids of Giza, aligned with the stars, were not just tombs. They were cosmic engines designed to launch the pharaoh's soul into the afterlife, a journey to eternal paradise. But Egyptian civilization was more than just pyramids and pharaohs. They were master innovators. Their astronomers mapped the stars to create a 365-day calendar, a system so accurate it formed the basis of the one we use today. Their doctors performed complex surgeries and wrote medical texts that were studied for centuries. And their scribes developed hieroglyphics, a beautiful and complex writing system that recorded everything from epic poems to simple grocery lists, giving us a direct window into their daily lives and deepest beliefs. They believed death was not an end, but a transition. This belief drove the intricate process of mummification and the creation of the Book of the Dead, a collection of spells to guide the deceased through the underworld. The goal was to pass the final judgment, have their heart weighed against a feather, and be granted eternal life among the gods. From the military might of Ramses the Great to the brilliant diplomacy of Hatshepsut, and the legendary allure of Cleopatra, the story of ancient Egypt is a sweeping epic of human ambition, faith, and genius. Its legacy is written in stone, in papyrus, and in our collective imagination. It is a civilization that, in many ways, achieved its ultimate goal, immortality. Imagine a river, a lifeline carving its way through an endless desert. For thousands of years, this was the entire world for countless people. This river is the Nile, and its story is the story of Egypt, before the towering pyramids, before the golden pharaohs we know so well. The banks of this mighty river were dotted with small, independent communities. Each had its own leader, its own traditions, its own gods. They were farmers, fishermen, and hunters, their lives governed by the rhythm of the Nile's annual flood, which brought rich, black soil to their fields. For centuries, these communities thrived, but they were separate. The land was divided into two distinct regions: Upper Egypt in the south, a long, narrow valley, and Lower Egypt in the north, a vast, fertile delta where the Nile meets the sea. Think of them as to different worlds, to different cultures. The people of Upper Egypt wore the tall, white crown, the hedjit. In Lower Egypt, the rulers wore the red, bowl-shaped crown, the deshret. They traded, they skirmished, but they were not one. But change was coming, carried on the current of the river itself. Around 3100 BC, a powerful ruler from Upper Egypt rose to prominence. History knows him by many names: Menes, Narmer. His ambition was greater than just ruling his own lands. He envisioned something new, something unprecedented, a single, unified kingdom. This wasn't just a dream of conquest, it was a vision of stability, of strength, of a civilization that could achieve things no single tribe ever could. The story of how this unification happened is etched in stone, most famously on the Narmer palette, one of history's most important artifacts. On one side, we see Narmer wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt, victorious over his enemies. On the other side, he proudly wears the combined double crown, the pshent, a powerful symbol of his triumph. He had brought the two lands together. This wasn't just a military victory. It was a masterful act of political genius. He established a new capital city right at the border of the two old kingdoms, a place called Memphis. It was a neutral ground, a central hub for this new, united Egypt. This moment, this unification, marks the dawn of the first dynasty. It's the beginning of Egypt as we know it, a powerful, centralized state ruled by a single divine king, the Pharaoh. The creation of a unified kingdom unleashed an explosion of cultural and technological innovation. They developed one of the world's first writing systems, hieroglyphs, to manage the administration of their vast new kingdom. They perfected large-scale irrigation, mastered stonework, and laid the administrative and religious foundations that would last for 3,000 years. The first dynasty set the stage for everything that followed. It was the seed from which the Old Kingdom, the age of the Great Pyramids, would grow. The idea of a unified Egypt, ruled by a divine pharaoh, became the core of their identity. So next time you see an image of a pyramid or a golden mask, remember that it all started here more than 5,000 years ago, on the banks of the Nile, with the vision of one king who dared to unite two lands into one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. History is filled with legendary rulers, but have you ever wondered who started it all? Who was the very first king to wear the double crown of a unified nation? Today, we read journeying back over 5,000 years to uncover the story of a man who forged an empire from two warring lands, King Narmer, the first pharaoh of Egypt. Before Narmer, Egypt was a divided land. In the south, you had Upper Egypt, symbolized by the tall, white hedged crown. In the north, Lower Egypt, represented by the red, bowl-shaped deshret crown. These two regions had distinct cultures, gods, and ambitions. For centuries, they existed in a state of rivalry, sometimes trading, often fighting. Imagine a land split right down the middle, with the life-giving Nile River as both its heart and its fault line. This was the world Narmer was born into. So who was this man who would change the course of history forever? The truth is, details about his early life are shrouded in mystery, lost to the sands of time. But what we do have is one of the most incredible artifacts ever discovered, the Narmer Palette. This 2-foot-tall shield-shaped stone is our primary window into his reign, a masterpiece of ancient propaganda carved around 3100 BC. It tells a dramatic story of conquest and unification, a story that would echo for the next 3,000 years. Let's break down what it shows us. On one side, we see Narmer, larger than life, wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt. He's in a classic smiting pose, holding a mace high above his head, ready to strike down a kneeling enemy from the northern delta. This isn't just a depiction of a single battle. It's a powerful statement. It's Narmer, the southern king, demonstrating his complete and total domination over the north. Below his feet, 2 more defeated enemies are shown, solidifying his victory. The god Horus, in the form of a falcon, is shown holding a rope tied to a man's head emerging from papyrus reeds, symbolizing the subjugation of the papyrus land, Lower Egypt. Now flip the palette over. The story continues, but the imagery shifts. At the very top, we see Narmer again, but this time, he's wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt. He is calmly inspecting rows of decapitated enemies, their heads placed neatly between their legs. The message is crystal clear. The war is over, and Narmer is now the undisputed ruler of both lands. He has successfully conquered the north. But the most fascinating symbol is right in the center of this side. Two mythical, long-necked beasts called serpopards are intertwined, their necks held on leash by 2 attendants. This incredible image is widely interpreted as the literal unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. The 2 once wild and opposing forces are now tamed, brought together in harmony under a single, powerful ruler. And at the very bottom, a bull symbolizing the king's strength is seen breaking down the walls of a fortified city. Narmer wasn't just a conqueror, he was a unifier, a founder. By bringing the 2 lands together, Narmer didn't just win a war. He created a new political and religious reality. He established the concept of the Pharaoh, a divine king who served as the intermediary between the gods and the people. He founded the city of Memphis, strategically located at the junction of Upper and Lower Egypt, to serve as the capital of his new kingdom. This act of unification kick-started the early dynastic period and laid the foundation for the magnificent Old Kingdom, the era of the Great Pyramid builders. The legacy of Narmer is the very existence of ancient Egypt as we know it. Every pharaoh who came after him, from Khufu to Tutankhamun to Cleopatra, wore the combined double crown, a direct inheritance from the precedents set by Narmer. His vision of a unified Egypt endured for millennia, making him one of the most consequential figures in all of human history. So the next time you see the iconic image of a pharaoh, remember the story of Narmer, the king who turned to rival lands into one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. Have you ever wondered how a civilization, thousands of years ago, managed to build monuments that still leave us breathless today? Let's travel back in time to ancient Egypt's Old Kingdom, a period that didn't just shape a nation, but changed the world forever. Imagine the desert at dawn. The sun paints the horizon in shades of orange and gold, casting long shadows across the sand. This is the land of the Pharaohs, a realm ruled by god-kings whose ambition was as vast as the sky itself. Before this era, buildings were made of mud brick, temporary structures that crumbled with time. But the Old Kingdom ushered in a revolution, one carved in stone. It all started with a visionary architect named Imhotep, serving King Djoser. He dared to dream bigger. Instead of the traditional flat-topped mastaba tombs, he stacked them, one on top of the other, creating the world's first major stone building, the Step Pyramid at Saqqara. It was a staircase to the heavens, a declaration that even death could not conquer the power of the king. This single innovation sparked a firestorm of architectural creativity. Suddenly, the impossible seemed possible. The Egyptians became masters of quarrying and logistics. Picture thousands of workers united by a common purpose, cutting massive limestone and granite blocks from the earth. These weren't just random laborers, they were skilled craftsmen, farmers during the Nile's flood season, who lived in well-organized towns. They weren't building tombs for just any king. They were building for their god, ensuring the cosmic order, or Mat, and their own place in the afterlife. Using sheer muscle, sledges, and ramps, they moved stones weighing several tons across miles of unforgiving desert. The precision they achieved with simple copper tools is mind-boggling. This architectural fever reached its zenith at Giza. The Great Pyramid, built for King Khufu, is the ultimate testament to Old Kingdom ambition. For nearly 4,000 years, it was the tallest man-made structure on Earth. Over 2 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as an elephant, were fitted together so perfectly that you can't even slide a piece of paper between them. And it wasn't just a pile of rocks. Inside lies a complex network of passages and chambers, all designed to protect the pharaoh's final journey. Flanking Khufu's pyramid are the slightly smaller but equally impressive pyramids of his son Khafre and grandson Menkaure, guarded by the enigmatic Great Sphinx. But why this obsession with pyramids? For the ancient Egyptians, the pharaoh was the bridge between the gods and humanity. His survival in the afterlife was crucial for the prosperity and stability of the entire kingdom. These stone mountains were resurrection machines, eternal homes designed to launch the king's spirit to the stars, where he would join the gods and watch over his people forever. They were symbols of power, faith, and a belief in eternity that was as solid as the stone they were built from. The legacy of the Old Kingdom is not just in the pyramids themselves, but in the knowledge they represent. They developed advanced mathematics and engineering to solve complex design problems. They created a sophisticated bureaucracy to manage the massive labor force and resources. They pushed the boundaries of human achievement, leaving behind a blueprint of what's possible when a society unites behind a grand vision. So the next time you see a picture of the pyramids, don't just see a tourist attraction. See the dawn of a new age, the moment humanity learned to build for eternity, and the enduring spirit of a civilization that truly touched the sky. Their world of stone continues to inspire our world of steel and glass, reminding us of the timeless power of human ingenuity. Look at this, the Great Pyramid of Khufu, towering over the Giza Plateau. It's the last man standing, the final survivor of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. For 4,500 years, it has watched empires rise and fall, seasons change, and humanity evolve. But the biggest question remains, how on earth did they build it? Let's talk numbers for a second, because they are absolutely staggering. This isn't just a big pile of rocks. We're talking about 2.3 million individual stone blocks. Some of them, especially the granite slabs inside the king's chamber, weigh up to 80 tons. That's the weight of a dozen elephants. These massive blocks were quarried, transported from miles away, and then lifted hundreds of feet into the air. And they did all this without the help of modern cranes, without steel, without wheels even. Now, picture this. You're standing at the base of the pyramid. The sheer scale is overwhelming. It was the tallest man-made structure in the world for over 3,800 years. But it's not just the size that's impressive, it's the precision. The 4 sides of the base are aligned almost perfectly with the 4 cardinal points of the compass: north, south, east, and west. The margin of error is tiny, just a fraction of a degree. Modern construction companies, with all their laser-guided technology, would be proud of that level of accuracy. How did an ancient civilization achieve this? For a long time, the popular story was that the pyramids were built by a massive army of slaves, whipped and driven under the scorching Egyptian sun. It's a dramatic image, one we've seen in countless movies. But modern archaeology and historical records tell a very different story. It wasn't slaves who built this wonder, it was skilled, paid workers. Archaeologists have uncovered the remains of an entire city right next to the pyramids. This wasn't a slave camp. They found bakeries, breweries, and facilities for processing fish. They found evidence of a well-fed workforce. These weren't people being forced to work. These were craftsmen and laborers who were respected for their skills. They were organized into teams with names like the Drunkards of Menkaure or the Friends of Khufu. They lived in a community, worked in shifts, and received medical care. We've even found their tombs, buried with honor near the pyramid they helped create. Slaves wouldn't have been given such a privilege. So, if not slaves, how did they do it? The engineering was pure genius. While we still don't know every single detail, experts believe they used a system of ramps to haul the stones upwards. There are debates about what kind of ramp it was. Was it a single, long, straight ramp that grew with the pyramid? Or was it a more complex spiral ramp that corkscrewed around the outside? A newer theory even suggests an internal ramp, spiraling up inside the pyramid itself. To move the heavy stones across the desert sand, they likely used large wooden sledges. And here, as a clever trick depicted in ancient art, workers would pour water on the sand in front of the sledge. This simple act would harden the sand, reducing the friction and making it much easier to pull those multi-ton blocks. It is a perfect example of how they used their deep understanding of physics and their environment to solve huge engineering challenges. The tools they used were simple but effective: copper chisels for quarrying the softer limestone, and harder dolerite pounders for shaping the tough granite. They used wooden levers and sheer human strength. It was a combination of incredible manpower, meticulous planning, and brilliant problem solving. This wasn't magic or alien technology, it was the peak of human ingenuity. The Great Pyramid wasn't just a tomb for a pharaoh. It was a national project, a symbol of the power, unity, and ambition of an entire civilization. It brought together architects, engineers, mathematicians, and tens of thousands of workers in a shared goal that would echo through eternity. It's a monument to what people can achieve when they work together. So the next time you see a picture of the Great Pyramid, don't just see an ancient mystery. See a testament to skilled labor, brilliant engineering, and the enduring power of human collaboration. Hey everyone, welcome back to our journey through ancient Egypt. Last time, we talked about the chaos of the first intermediate period. But out of that chaos, a new era of stability and incredible creativity was born, the Middle Kingdom. This period, often called Egypt's classical age, wasn't just about pharaohs and pyramids. It was a time when the very soul of Egypt seemed to awaken. Imagine walking through the bustling streets of Thebes, the new capital. Instead of focusing solely on massive monuments for the afterlife, the Egyptians started to look around them at the beauty and complexity of daily life. This was an age of introspection, a time when people asked profound questions about their world, their gods, and their place in the universe. This intellectual curiosity gave birth to some of the most beautiful literature in human history. Poets and scribes of the Middle Kingdom weren't just writing hymns to the gods anymore. They were composing stories of adventure, tales of shipwrecked sailors, and deeply personal poems about love, loss, and the struggles of ordinary people. Works like the story of Sinna became instant classics, copied and recited for centuries. It's like they invented the novel, a narrative that explored the human condition with incredible depth and emotion. This was a radical shift, moving from a culture obsessed with death to one that celebrated life. And this new spirit was reflected everywhere, especially in art. The stiff, formal statues of the Old Kingdom began to soften. If you look at the portraits of pharaohs like Senusret III, you see something new. You see faces etched with the lines of care and responsibility. You see wisdom, weariness, even a hint of vulnerability. These weren't just idealized images of divine kings. They were portraits of real human beings carrying the weight of a nation on their shoulders. The art became more realistic, more intimate, capturing the subtle emotions that make us human. Sculptors also experimented with new forms. The block statue became popular, a simple, cubic form showing a seated figure, often holding a sacred object. These statues project a sense of timeless calm and devotion, a quiet strength that perfectly captures the mood of the era. The craftsmanship was exquisite, with detailed hieroglyphs telling the story of the person's life and accomplishments meant to last for eternity. This cultural renaissance also saw a boom in temple construction. While the Great Pyramids were a thing of the past, pharaohs now focused on building magnificent temples dedicated to the gods, especially Amun-Ra, who rose to become the chief deity of the state. These weren't just places of worship, they were sprawling complexes, economic centers, and hubs of learning. Imagine the morning sun rising over the Grand Temple at Karnak, its golden rays illuminating massive pillars covered in intricate carvings. It was a testament to the renewed power and piety of the kingdom. The Middle Kingdom was a golden age of thought, art, and literature. It laid the cultural foundations for the even more spectacular New Kingdom that would follow. It was a time when Egypt rediscovered its own voice, creating a rich cultural legacy that continues to inspire us thousands of years later. It teaches us that even after periods of collapse, human creativity can flourish, leading to incredible new heights. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to walk through a city of gods and pharaohs? Today, we're not just imagining it. We're stepping back in time over 4,000 years to the ancient city of Thebes, the vibrant heart of the Egyptian New Kingdom. Imagine a city so powerful, so wealthy, so spiritually significant that it was known as the City of 100 Gates. This wasn't just a capital, it was the center of the known world, a metropolis teeming with life, power, and divine purpose. As we journey into Thebes, one structure dominates the landscape, a place so vast it defies belief. Welcome to the Temple of Karnak. This isn't just one temple. It's a sprawling complex of sanctuaries, pylons, obelisks, and sacred lakes built and expanded by pharaohs over 2,000 years. Each ruler sought to leave their mark, to add their own legacy to this sacred ground, making Karnak a living library of Egyptian history, etched in stone. At the very heart of Karnak stands the Great Hypostyle Hall, an architectural marvel that still leaves visitors speechless. Picture yourself standing amidst a forest of 134 colossal columns, each one reaching towards the heavens like a giant papyrus stalk. They are covered from top to bottom in intricate hieroglyphs, telling stories of gods, battles, and rituals. The sheer scale is designed to make you feel small, to remind you of the immense power of the gods and the pharaoh who served as their intermediary on earth. As sunlight filters through the few remaining ceiling openings, it creates a mystical play of light and shadow, and you can almost hear the echoes of ancient chants and processions. The entire complex was dedicated primarily to the Theban triad, the great god Amun-Ra, the king of the gods, his consort, the mother goddess Mut, and their son, the moon god Honsu. Amun-Ra's influence was immense. As the patron deity of Thebes, his temple became the most important religious center in all of Egypt. The pharaohs themselves were seen as his sons, and their legitimacy to rule was deeply intertwined with the priesthood of Amun. The wealth that poured into Karnak from military conquests and trade was staggering, making its high priests some of the most powerful men in the kingdom. Walking further into the complex, you encounter magnificent obelisks, single pieces of granite soaring into the sky, their tips once sheathed in gold to catch the first and last rays of the sun. These were monuments to the sun god Ra, symbols of creation and stability. Imagine the incredible engineering feat it took to quarry, transport, and erect these monolithic giants using only the tools available to the ancient Egyptians. Near one of these obelisks lies the sacred lake, This man-made body of water wasn't for swimming, it was a place of ritual purity. Priests would perform their daily ablutions here before entering the temple's holiest sanctuaries, and sacred boats carrying statues of the gods would float upon its surface during grand festivals. One of the most spectacular events was the Opet Festival, an annual celebration where the statues of the Theban triad were carried in a grand procession from Karnak to the Luxor Temple, a few kilometers to the south along the Avenue of the Sphinxes. This was a time of great public celebration, reaffirming the divine connection between the gods and the pharaoh, and reruing the very fabric of the cosmos. Thebes was more than just stone and monuments. It was a city of living faith, a place where the divine and the mortal worlds met. Today, as we walk through these magnificent ruins, we are walking in the footsteps of giant pharaohs like Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, and Ramses the Great. The legacy of Thebes and the grandeur of Karnak remind us of a civilization that reached for eternity and, in many ways, achieved it. The stories are still here, waiting to be read on every wall and column. Have you ever wondered what ancient Egypt was like at its absolute peak? We're talking about a time of unimaginable wealth, colossal temples, and legendary rulers whose names still echo through history. This wasn't just an era of pyramids, this was the age of empire. Welcome to the New Kingdom, Egypt's Golden Age. Picture this. The year is 1550 BC. Egypt has just kicked out foreign invaders and is rising from the ashes, stronger and more ambitious than ever. This is the birth of the New Kingdom, a period that would last for nearly 500 years and redefine power in the ancient world. The capital city, Thebes, which you might know today as Luxor, became the heart of this sprawling empire, a dazzling metropolis filled with towering monuments and bustling streets. It all started with a revolution in military strategy. The Egyptians learned from their enemies and perfected the war chariot. Imagine thousands of these fast, mobile platforms thundering across the desert, a terrifying and unstoppable force. This new military might allow the pharaohs to expand their borders like never before. They marched south into Nubia, rich with gold, and north into the Levant, conquering new lands and creating a vast empire that stretched from modern-day Sudan all the way to Syria. This expansion brought in staggering amounts of wealth. Gold poured in from the Nubian mines, exotic goods like ivory and ebony arrived from Africa, and tribute flowed from conquered city-states. This wasn't just wealth for the pharaohs, it fueled a nationwide construction boom. The New Kingdom is when we see the creation of some of Egypt's most iconic sites. Think of the Karnak Temple complex, a sprawling city of gods, so vast it was built and expanded by over 30 different pharaohs. Or the Valley of the Kings, a secret royal cemetery carved deep into the desert cliffs, where pharaohs were buried with treasures intended to last for eternity. And the rulers of this era, they were legends. You had pharaohs like Thutmose III, often called the Napoleon of Egypt, a military genius who conducted numerous successful campaigns and solidified Egypt's control over its empire. Then there was Akhenaten, the heretic king who turned Egyptian religion on its head by declaring there was only one god, the sun disk Aten. His new capital, Amarna, was a revolutionary city dedicated to this new faith. But it wasn't just the men who held power. The New Kingdom saw some of the most influential women in history take the throne. Queen Hatshepsut, for example, declared herself pharaoh and ruled for over 2 decades, a period of great peace and prosperity. She is famous for her stunning mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri and a daring trade expedition to the distant land of Punt. And, of course, there's Nefertiti, Akhenaten's queen, whose famous bust showcases a standard of beauty and power that has captivated the world for centuries. Towards the end of this golden age, we meet perhaps the most famous pharaoh of all, Ramses the Great. Ramses II reigned for an incredible 66 years, a reign defined by massive building projects and epic battles, like the famous Battle of Kadesh. His image is everywhere in Egypt, from the colossal statues at Abu Simbel to the sprawling temples he built across the land. He truly embodied the power and grandeur of the New Kingdom, but like all great empires, the New Kingdom's golden age couldn't last forever. A combination of internal struggles, economic problems, and a wave of invasions by mysterious groups known as the Sea Peoples began to weaken Egypt's grip. The empire slowly fractured, and by around 1070 BC, the New Kingdom came to an end, paving the way for a period of division and foreign rule. Yet, the legacy of the New Kingdom is immortal. It was an era of unparalleled power, wealth, and cultural achievement. The pharaohs of this time weren't just rulers. They were gods on earth, commanders of unstoppable armies, and master builders whose creations still leave us in awe today. From the chariots that conquered an empire to the golden masks that hid the faces of kings, the New Kingdom was truly Egypt's time to shine. Have you ever heard of the woman who became a king? Not a queen, but a king, a pharaoh of Egypt, complete with the false beard and all the royal titles. This is the incredible story of Hatshepsut, one of the most powerful and successful rulers in ancient history. In ancient Egypt, the role of pharaoh was almost exclusively male. It was a position seen as divinely ordained for men, the earthly embodiment of the god Horus. Queens were powerful, yes, but the ultimate authority rested with the pharaoh. So, how did a woman break this centuries-old tradition and claim the throne for herself? Hatshepsut's story begins in the 18th dynasty, a golden age for Egypt. She was the daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose I and his great royal wife. She was married to her half-brother, Thutmose II, a common practice to keep the royal bloodline pure. When Thutmose II died after a short reign, the heir was his infant son, Thutmose III, born to a lesser wife. Hatshepsut, as the dowager queen and the young boy's aunt and stepmother, was appointed regent. She was meant to rule only until Thutmose III came of age, but Hatshepsut had other plans. She wasn't content to simply hold the throne for someone else. For the first few years, she ruled as a conventional regent. But then, she did something unprecedented. She declared herself pharaoh. To legitimize her claim, she asserted that the god Amun-Ra had proclaimed her as his daughter and the rightful ruler of Egypt. She adopted all the pharaonic titles and was often depicted in statues and reliefs with male attributes, including the traditional kilt and the ceremonial false beard. This wasn't about denying her gender. It was a brilliant political move to fit herself into the established iconography of kingship, to show her people she was a legitimate pharaoh in every sense. So what was her reign like? Unlike many pharaohs who are famous for their military conquests, Hatshepsut's rule was marked by peace and immense prosperity. She was a builder, not a conqueror. She focused on re-establishing trade routes that had been disrupted, most famously launching a major expedition to the mysterious land of Punt, believed to be somewhere on the coast of East Africa. This mission was a resounding success. The ships returned laden with gold, ebony, ivory, exotic animals, and, most importantly, live frankincense and myrrh trees, which were then planted in Egypt. Imagine seeing those foreign trees growing in the temple gardens for the first time. This trade brought incredible wealth and new luxuries into the kingdom. This wealth fueled one of Hatshepsut's greatest passions, architecture. Her reign saw a massive building boom across Egypt. She commissioned hundreds of construction projects, restoring old temples and erecting new monuments. But her crowning achievement, the jewel of her reign, is the magnificent mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, carved directly into the side of a cliff face on the west bank of the Nile. This temple is an architectural masterpiece. Its elegant terraces rise from the desert floor, connected by sweeping ramps, and its walls are covered in stunning reliefs that tell the story of her divine birth and her celebrated expedition to Punt. It's unlike any other temple in Egypt, a testament to her innovative vision and artistic sensibilities. Even today, thousands of years later, visiting Deir el-Bahari is a breathtaking experience. For about 2 decades, Hatshepsut ruled over a thriving Egypt. She brought peace, wealth, and architectural beauty to her land. But what happened after her death is a mystery that still puzzles historians. Sometime after she died and her stepson Thutmose III finally took the throne, a systematic effort was made to erase her from history. Her name was chiseled off monuments, her statues were smashed and buried, and her image was removed from temple walls. For centuries, her legacy was lost, her reign forgotten. Why would Thutmose III do this? Was it revenge for her taking his throne for so long? Or was it a more practical decision to restore the traditional, male-only line of pharaohs to erase the precedent of a woman ruling as king? We may never know for sure. Fortunately, they didn't succeed completely. Thanks to the work of modern archaeologists, Hatshepsut's story has been pieced back together. We can now see her not as an ambitious usurper, but as a wise and effective ruler who ushered in an era of peace and prosperity. She proved that a woman could rule Egypt as successfully as any man, leaving behind a legacy carved in stone that could not be entirely destroyed. Her story is a powerful reminder that history is full of incredible figures who defied the expectations of their time. Have you ever heard of a pharaoh who tried to erase 1,000 years of history? A ruler who declared war on his own gods? This is the incredible and ultimately tragic story of Akhenaten, the heretic king of Egypt. Before Akhenaten, Egypt worshipped a huge pantheon of gods and goddesses, with the powerful priests of Amun-Ra at the center of it all. But when a young pharaoh named Amenhotep IV came to the throne, he had a radical vision. He didn't just favor a new god, he declared there was only one god. This god was the Aten, the physical disk of the sun, the source of all life. To show his devotion, he changed his own name from Amenhotep, which meant Amun is satisfied, to Akhenaten, meaning effective for the Aten. This wasn't just a spiritual change, it was a political earthquake. Akhenaten shut down the ancient temples dedicated to gods like Amun-Ra, Horus, and Osiris. He stripped the powerful priesthoods of their wealth and influence, redirecting all that money and power towards his new state religion. Imagine the shock and outrage this caused. For centuries, Egyptian society was built around these gods. The pharaoh was supposed to be the link between the people and the divine pantheon, but Akhenaten broke that link. To make a clean break from the past, he did something even more drastic. He abandoned Thebes, the traditional capital of Egypt, and built a brand new city out in the desert. He called it Akhetaten, or Horizon of the Aten, known today as Amarna. This city was dedicated entirely to his one god. Palaces, temples, and homes were all constructed at incredible speed. The main temple wasn't a dark, mysterious chamber like the old ones. It was open air, with massive courtyards where the sun's rays, the physical manifestation of Aten, could pour down on the worshippers. Akhenaten positioned himself and his famous queen, Nefertiti, as the sole mediators between humanity and the Aten. Only through them could people connect with the divine. This revolution extended to art as well. For 1,000 years, Egyptian art had been rigid and idealized. Pharaohs were always depicted as perfect, muscular, and emotionless. But under Akhenaten, this all changed. The so-called Amarna style was startlingly different. It was realistic, sometimes to the point of being strange. Akhenaten himself was depicted with an elongated skull, slender limbs, a drooping belly, and wide hips. Scholars still debate why. Was it a realistic portrayal of a physical condition, or was it a symbolic choice? meant to represent him as the mother and father of all humankind, a vessel of creation. We see intimate, natural scenes of the royal family for the first time Akhenaten kissing his daughters, Nefertiti sitting on his lap. It was a kind of raw human emotion never before seen in royal art. But this grand experiment was not destined to last. While Akhenaten was focused on his religious revolution, it's possible he neglected other duties of a pharaoh. Foreign policy may have faltered, and within Egypt, the people were likely confused and resentful. Their entire worldview had been turned upside down. The gods who had protected them for millennia were gone, declared false by their king. After about 17 years on the throne, Akhenaten died. And almost immediately, his revolution began to crumble. His successors, including the famous boy king Tutankhamun, who was originally named Tutankhaten, quickly restored the old gods. The priests of Amun-Ra returned to power with a vengeance. They dismantled Akhenaten's temples, abandoned his city of Akhetaten, and, most effectively, they tried to erase him from history. His name was chiseled off monuments, his statues were smashed, and he was referred to in later records simply as the enemy or the criminal. For thousands of years, it was as if he never existed. It wasn't until the 19th century, when archaeologists rediscovered the ruins of his lost city, Amarna, that the story of the heretic king began to be pieced back together. Akhenaten's radical vision of a single god was a failure in his own time, but it makes him one of history's most fascinating and controversial figures. Was he a visionary monotheist, centuries ahead of his time? Or a dangerous fanatic who plunged his country into chaos for the sake of his own ego? Imagine a world where ancient gods walked among mortals, where pharaohs were living deities, and where death was just the beginning of another journey. For one boy king, his story wasn't just about his life, but about his incredible afterlife, discovered thousands of years later. This is the story of Tutankhamun. Born around 1341 BC, Tutankhamun ascended to the throne when he was just a child, around 9 years old. He inherited a kingdom in turmoil. His father, Akhenaten, had appended centuries of religious tradition, casting aside the pantheon of Egyptian gods in favor of a single deity, the sun disk Aten. This was a radical move, and it left Egypt divided and unstable. Priests were powerless, temples were closed, and the people were confused. Young Tutankhamun, guided by his powerful advisors, made a decision that would define his reign. He reversed his father's revolution. He restored the old gods Amun-Ra, Osiris, Isis to their rightful places. The temples were reopened, the priesthood was reinstated, and the capital was moved back to Thebes. He changed his own name from Tutankhaten, meaning living image of Aten, to Tutankhamun, living image of Amun. He was, in essence, the king who brought balance back to the cosmos. But his reign was short. He died around the age of 19, and the cause remains a subject of intense debate among historians. Was it an accident, an illness, or something more sinister? After his death, Tutankhamun was buried in the Valley of the Kings, the royal necropolis. His successors tried to erase him and his father from history, chiseling their names from monuments. For 3,000 years, the boy king was largely forgotten, his small tomb hidden beneath the desert sands, buried by the debris from the construction of other, grander tombs. He became a ghost of history. Fast forward to the early 20th century. The Valley of the Kings was thought to be exhausted, picked clean by archaeologists and tomb robbers alike. But one man, a stubborn English archaeologist named Howard Carter, refused to believe it. For years, he searched, funded by his patron, Lord Carnarvon. Season after season, they found almost nothing. By 1922, Lord Carnarvon was ready to give up. Carter begged for one more season, just one more chance. On November 4th, 1922, their persistence paid off. A water boy on Carter's team stumbled upon a step cut into the rock, hidden beneath the rubble. Carter and his team began to dig frantically. They uncovered a staircase leading down to a sealed doorway bearing the royal seals of the necropolis, seals that were intact. Carter knew he was on the verge of something extraordinary. He sent a telegram to Lord Carnarvon. At last have made wonderful discovery in valley. A magnificent tomb with seals intact. When Carnarvon arrived, they broke through the doorway. Carter peered into the darkness, holding a candle. Lord Carnarvon, standing behind him, asked anxiously, "Can you see anything?" Carter's reply has become legendary. Yes, wonderful things, and they were wonderful. The antechamber was filled to the brim with treasures. Gilded chariots, golden couches carved in the shape of mythical beasts, ornate chests, and statues. It was a chaotic jumble of objects, untouched for over 3 millennia. It took Carter and his team nearly a decade to carefully catalog and remove every single one of the 5,398 items. The most spectacular discovery was yet to come. Beyond the antechamber lay the burial chamber itself. Inside, a series of 4 massive, gilded shrines nested one inside the other like Russian dolls. At the center was a stone sarcophagus. When they lifted the heavy lid, they found not 1, but 3 coffins. The first 2 were gilded wood, but the third, the innermost coffin, was made of 240 pounds of solid gold. And inside that, resting on the mummy of the boy king, was the most iconic image of ancient Egypt, Tutankhamun's death mask. Crafted from gold and inlaid with lapis lazuli and other semi-precious stones, it is a masterpiece of ancient art staring out through time with a serene, eternal gaze. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb was a global sensation. It provided an unprecedented, detailed look into the life, death, and burial of an Egyptian pharaoh. While Tutankhamun's reign was short and his political impact limited to restoring the old ways, his true legacy was born from his death. His intact tomb, a time capsule from the 14th century BC, has taught us more about the wealth, craftsmanship, and beliefs of the New Kingdom than any other single discovery. So, the next time you see that golden mask, remember the story behind it. The story of a boy king who restored order to his kingdom, was lost to time, and then, 3,000 years later, was found, giving the modern world its greatest archaeological treasure. For over 3,000 years, the civilization of ancient Egypt stood as a titan, a beacon of power, innovation, and culture that shaped the ancient world. Pharaohs, seen as gods on earth, commanded vast armies, built monuments that defied time, and presided over a golden empire. But as the saying goes, all great empires must eventually fall. How did this seemingly eternal kingdom, blessed by the Nile and ruled by divine kings, finally meet its end? The story isn't one of a single, catastrophic event, but a slow, agonizing decline, a story of 1,000 cuts inflicted by a succession of foreign invaders. Our story begins around the 11th century BCE, at the end of the New Kingdom. Egypt, once the undisputed superpower of the region, was showing signs of weakness. Internal power struggles and a strained economy left its borders vulnerable. The first to exploit this were the Libyans from the west. These weren't swift, dramatic invasions, but a gradual infiltration. Libyan chieftains and their families settled in the Nile Delta, slowly gaining influence and power. They integrated into Egyptian society, adopted Egyptian customs, and eventually, their leaders became strong enough to establish their own dynasty. The 22nd dynasty, ruling as pharaohs from the city of Tanis. It was a foreign rule, but one that wore an Egyptian mask. While the Libyans consolidated their power in the north, a new threat was rising from the south. The kingdom of Kush, in what is now modern-day Sudan, had long been under Egyptian influence, even control. But now, with Egypt fragmented, the tables turned. The Nubian kings of Kush saw themselves as the true heirs to the pharaonic tradition, the protectors of Egyptian culture against the corrupted Libyan rulers in the north. Around 730 BCE, the Kushite king Pi launched a full-scale invasion. He marched north, conquering city after city, and declared himself the rightful pharaoh of all Egypt. This established the 25th dynasty, often called the Nubian or Kushite dynasty. For a time, it seemed like a restoration of old glory, as these southern pharaohs revered ancient traditions and built magnificent structures in the classic Egyptian style. Egypt was once again unified, but it was under the rule of its former subjects. This period of Nubian rule, however, brought Egypt into direct conflict with a far more brutal and formidable power, the Neo-Assyrian Empire. Originating from Mesopotamia, the Assyrians were a military machine renowned for their iron weapons, siege warfare, and ruthless tactics. In a series of devastating campaigns in the 670s and 660s BCE, Assyrian kings like Esarhaddon and Ashurbanipal swept into Egypt. They sacked the great city of Thebes, plundered its temples, and drove the Nubian pharaohs back south. The Assyrians didn't aim to rule Egypt directly, it was too far from their heartland. Instead, they installed local puppet rulers, effectively shattering the unified kingdom and leaving it a fractured vassal state. The psychological blow was immense. The sacking of Thebes, a sacred city, was an unthinkable violation that signaled a new, terrifying era. As the Assyrian Empire crumbled, Egypt enjoyed a brief, final flicker of native independence under the 26th dynasty. But a new, even larger empire was rising in the east, the Achaemenid Persian Empire. In 525 BCE, the Persian king Cambyses II, son of Cyrus the Great, set his sights on the riches of the Nile. At the Battle of Pelusium, the Persian army decisively defeated the Egyptians. Cambyses became the new pharaoh, and Egypt was reduced to a satrapy, a mere province within the vast Persian domain. For the next centuries, with a few short-lived rebellions, Egypt was ruled from afar by a Persian great king. The age of the god kings was now a distant memory, replaced by the reality of being a subject people. The final act came not from the east, but from a new power in the west. In 332 BCE, a young, ambitious Macedonian king marched into Egypt. His name was Alexander the Great. After defeating the Persians, the Egyptians, weary of foreign rule, welcomed him not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. They crowned him pharaoh, and the oracle of Siwa, Oasis, famously declared him the son of the god Amun. Alexander respected Egyptian traditions and founded a new capital, a city that would become a legendary center of learning and culture, Alexandria. But Alexander's arrival marked the definitive end of the Pharaonic Age as it had been known. After his death, his general, Ptolemy, took control of Egypt, establishing the Ptolemaic dynasty. These new rulers were Greek, not Egyptian. While they adopted the title of pharaoh and depicted themselves in the traditional style on temple walls to legitimize their rule, their courts spoke Greek and their culture was Hellenistic. The civilization of the pyramids and the Sphinx had finally given way to the world of Plato and Aristotle. The last of this line, the famous Cleopatra VII, would ultimately fall to yet another rising power, Rome, sealing Egypt's fate as a province in a new empire. The story of the pharaohs, a story of 3,000 years, had finally come to an end. From the shifting sands of time, one civilization rises, a beacon of human ingenuity that has captivated the world for millennia, Egypt. A land of gods and pharaohs, of pyramids that pierce the sky, and of secrets whispered on the desert wind. Join us on a journey back in time to uncover the enduring legacy of a culture that didn't just build an empire, but laid the very foundations of our modern world. Long before the rise of Rome or the Golden Age of Greece, Egyptian minds were unlocking the mysteries of the universe. They gazed at the stars, mapping constellations, and creating a 365-day calendar so precise it is the ancestor of the one we use today. Their understanding of mathematics was not just theoretical. It was the blueprint for breathtaking architectural feats. Look at the Great Pyramid of Giza. Over 2 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, assembled with a precision that modern engineers still marvel at. How did they do it? This question has fueled a sense of wonder for centuries. But their genius wasn't limited to stone and stars. The Egyptians were masters of medicine. Papyri, ancient scrolls of knowledge, reveal their surprisingly advanced understanding of anatomy, surgery, and even dentistry. They identified diseases, prescribed remedies, and performed complex procedures. They believed in the sanctity of the body, developing mummification not just as a ritual, but as a sophisticated science to preserve the vessel for the journey into the afterlife. Every wrapped mummy is a testament to their profound respect for life and their deep beliefs about eternity. And what about their language? The walls of their temples and tombs are not just decorated, they are alive with stories. Hieroglyphs, a beautiful and complex system of sacred carvings, give us a direct window into their world. They tell tales of epic battles, record the daily lives of ordinary people, and preserve hymns to their powerful gods and goddesses. Decoding these symbols was like finding a key to a lost world, allowing us to hear the voices of priests, scribes, and pharaohs across the vast expanse of time. The Rosetta Stone wasn't just a rock, it was the key that unlocked an entire civilization. The Nile River was the lifeblood of Egypt, its annual floods bringing fertile black silt that sustained the kingdom. This rhythm of the river shaped their entire worldview, a cycle of death and rebirth reflected in their mythology, most famously in the story of Osiris. The Nile was their highway, their source of food, their inspiration. From the tranquil beauty of a sunset over its waters to the bustling trade along its banks, the river was the heart of ancient Egypt, pumping life into every aspect of their culture. It was a divine gift, and they honored it as such. As empires rose and fell around them, Egypt endured. Its science shaped the world. Its architecture has inspired generations of builders and dreamers. And its monuments, standing stoic against the winds of change, whisper a timeless promise that humanity possesses the power to create wonders that can outlive time itself. The story of ancient Egypt is more than just history, it's a story about us. It's a reminder of what we can achieve, of our endless quest for knowledge, and of our deep-seated desire to leave a mark on the world, to build something that lasts forever. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. If you were as mesmerized by the wonders of ancient Egypt as we are, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure into the past. See you next time.